Thinking Basketball Podcast. My name is Ben, and today it is that time of year, the 7th annual Thinkies, our defensive awards, where we sit around for a while and try to figure out who the best defenders are in the NBA. First of all, I can't believe this is our 7th year doing it. Secondly, even with the advancements in technology in the world, like artificial intelligence is close to a singularity. It's sitting around talking at night about how it's trapped in a computer and God knows what it's going to do next. We still can't make this process easier. Cody, it feels like evaluating defense is just as hard as it was 7 years ago. Maybe we have a few extra tools now, which is nice, but man, a lot of great defenders this year in all the categories. We're going to go through our big 6 categories that we've whittled down over the years, and that's it. We just jump in. I'm sure there's a preamble I need to get to, but I know you're rearing to go.
I think, man, it's so tough because you do want to do the preamble, but at the end of the day, we should just get into categories and I think start going from there. Otherwise, you and I get into a preamble off, Ben. Like we're able to preamble with the best of. I don't know if anyone, Ben, can preamble like we can preamble. So I would say maybe we try and skip the preamble so that we can avoid what's happening right now.
The meta commentary that's happening right now is basically turtles all the way down. We're in some sort of infinite regression, and I don't know how we're going to pop out of it. I think the only thing we can do is jump right in. I mean, we are running our mouths and things are happening. We're talking about infinities 3 minutes into the show. I think we should start with best motor. What do you think?
Oh, okay. I like that. Let's do best motor. Because we usually save best rim protector for the end. That's like the best picture.
Yes, that is the best picture. That is worth I feel like that's worth like multiple awards, just that one award is worth like winning 2 or 3. I think Bill Simmons says this, they should get a bigger medal in some of the events at the Olympics. That's what it feels like for best rim protector. If we made our little, we made our best hands and we had like a little golden glove statue, maybe next year we should do that. We should make little statues. Yes.
We've talked about this for years, and I genuinely, off the top of my head, can't tell you what some of the trophies are that we came up with, because we came up with something. I thought like 2 or 3 years ago we came up with something for all the Thinkies, but it's lost me now. Ben, I would love it. You should publish like all of the past winners, because honestly I don't even remember. Like I'll go back and look at my ballots, but that doesn't turn out to be exactly how things end up. So I'd love to see that somehow.
Well, the reason I don't publish the past winners is the reason that I do not have a actual little statues that we talked about, because I forget about it every year. Someone has to remind me. So yes, that's probably a good idea. We should publish as many of the past winners as we can get to. And if you have a question this year as we go through, I will give you the past winners. This is amazing. Our first comment is about Michael Malone being fired. It's like the Thinkies are timeless. Nothing actually happens during the week that we record the Thinkies. We could have the Luka Doncic trade during the Thinkies, and we just would have been like, nah, best motor. Here we go.
I would say no commentary on Malone. Like that's for another day. That's for another time. Maybe the playoff preview. Ben, this is our caught in time podcast. So let's get going with motor. I'm interested to see like how many people actually ended up getting votes in this category, because I feel like this might be the one that might have the widest band, the widest net for catching defensive players.
We had 18 players who got votes. Yeah, it's a good amount. How do I do this? Do I just start with the winner? Do we do 3? No. Do we do third, second, and first? I can't remember how in the world we break this down.
Wow, that's a really good. Maybe count up a little, like give a couple names. Maybe if we want to comment, we can go from there and then end with number 1. Or do you want to start with number 1? What do you think makes most sense?
I think definitely going 3, 2, 1. Okay. Yeah, but if there are other names we want to get to, but let's just get right to it. Let's hand out an award. Don't, when they start the Oscars, they just get right to like best supporting actor or something right up on stage. Let's knock this out. Here we go. The winner for best motor. We already have people in the comments saying it's going to be all Thunder players. Little do they know what's coming. There's only 6 Thunder players involved in this awards ceremony. Ha! Joke's on you. The third best motor in the league this year goes to, first of all, we had a tie. We had a multi-way tie for 4th place that just didn't quite crack it. Honorable mention: Lou Dort. There's a Thunder. Jared Vanderbilt, Jalen Suggs, all tied. But they did not get into the top 3. The third best motor in the league this year goes to Andrew Nembhard of the Indiana Pacers. He's such a little pest.
Yeah.
when I was doing this, I was thinking about all the guys in the league who just like to pick up full court. And I was like, how much extra credit do I just give you based on the fact that no matter what you look like, no matter what your coverage is and your team and how many cool plays you have, if you're picking up full court, you are just putting yourself out there every play to sprint up and down and harass someone for 94 feet. That's like 200 bonus points for me. So Andrew Nemhart, third, quite fittingly second, another full court machine, Tumani Kamara of the Portland Trailblazers. And the winner for best motor is a bit of a surprise for me. I thought it was going to be one of those other guys. Chris Dunn.
Ooh.
From the Los Angeles Clippers. Chris Dunn, best motor, best defensive motor in the NBA. Cody, your thoughts?
Yeah, let's talk about actually, I think something really interesting about number 2 and 3 there is it feels like, maybe this is wrong because I know Jared Vanderbilt has often been near the top of the list in past years, but it's interesting that we have some taller players that have got more votes for this because I feel like this is somewhat of a jitterbug award. Like I think even TJ McConnell, Andrew Nemhart's running mate, could definitely be somebody up there. There was a Jose Alvarado was often somebody that got a lot of votes. So I think it's like one of those things where, little players are trying to go out there and really make an impact and they get it. But now when you combine some of those skills, like I don't think, actually, I wonder if it's going to be a spoiler, but I feel like Nemhart and Kamara, you get that size, you get that length, and then you bring in this motor that they bring in. I mean, that makes it for a dangerous pairing, right? Because you can be long, you can be athletic, but if you don't have the energy to just like bounce all over the place like these guys do, like I'm picturing an Andrew Nemhart play where he's like contesting in the middle, he's like, closing out on someone, kicks it to the other side, and he's like bending backwards to like deflect it. He jumps out of bounds and like saves it with the behind the back pass. It's just all over the place half court. And I know he's only the number 3, but he's definitely a guy that I don't even know if he made it on my ballot for this, but an incredibly high motor for a really frisky Pacers team, Ben.
Cody, we're having a moonlight moment right now. This is amazing.
Did somebody else win?
No, someone else did not win, but due to some tabulation issues that I just noticed has been corrected, Andrew Nemhart actually finished 4th and Jared Vanderbilt finished 3rd.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that feels right. I had Vanderbilt, I think, number 1 on my ballot. I know he missed a big chunk of the year, so maybe it's not fair to judge somebody that's just able to come back. But I don't know, man. Maybe let me ask you something.
Did I have done in my ballot? I don't think I did.
Oh, I did. I definitely did.
Yeah.
Did you factor in offensive rebounding for this award?
That is a great question because on one hand, I'm thinking to myself, like, no, not really. On the other hand, I really wanted to get Derek White somewhere on my ballot because I think those plays where you're like tracking down rebounds or sprinting after loose balls or things like that are kind of emblematic of the spirit of having a high motor. And I don't know, we don't really think about like high motor offensive players. Of course, they exist if you're off ball. We talk about your ability to move and stuff like that, but this is a defensive award. And does that answer it? It's kind of like not really, but I guess I did at certain points in my mind when I thought of certain players.
So Josh Hart comes to mind for this because he strikes me as someone that almost has a higher offensive rebounding motor than he does on the defensive end. I feel like he's kind of all over the place more on offense, but I still slipped him into my ballot in terms of like, here's a guy that's all over the place. So I feel like I use offensive rebound kind of as a proxy, but of course that actually doesn't work very well for Chris Dunn, whom I think if you like go through all the guards and offensive rebounding, I don't think he's at the top of the list for that, but he's just one of those guys that I think, bounces around, guards everybody, is kind of flying all over. He has really tremendous hands. So, he's swiping at people when he's coming up from behind on them. So I think Chris Dunn's a worthy winner of this award, but ultimately I had Vanderbilt number 1 on my ballot for this.
Yeah, he won with a plurality. He did not get more than 50% of the vote share. Like I said, I don't think I had him on my ballot. Certainly thought of him, but there's just so many guys. Other guys, you think of Gary Payton II. You mentioned Josh Hart. You think of Caruso, Amen Thompson, Dyson Daniels. There's a lot of guys who you think of when you think of top motor who also picked up votes. Tari Eason was another one trickling in there. So, it's fun category, a nice, light, easy category to get us started.
I think it's a fun category, but it's also maybe the most difficult to evaluate. I feel like motor is one of those where you just kind of watch and sometimes things pop out to you and you're like, ooh, I should probably go and watch this guy a little bit more. But in general, there's not like a ton of flashy indicators for it. You just kind of have to be watching a basketball game and be like, you know what? I noticed Chris Dunn has been guarding like 7 people every possession. Like I should probably watch this a bit more and figure out how he is teleporting all over the court like this.
I want to say one more thing about motor that I'm somehow not sure we've actually said over all the years we've done this, and I really thought about it this year. Motor is not just about the superficially flashy, your hair's blowing in the wind, you're slapping the floor, you're screaming. And I think Dunn is a really good example of that, where you're consistently active. You're like glued to your man, but then you have to help, but then you have to recover. And it might not be as flashy, and you might not get a bunch of deflections or steals or stats that way. And you might not be screaming. And incidentally, like, he's not always one of the guys I think of when we talked about picking up full court at the top of this category. And yet, I think sometimes that can bias us toward, players that feel like they're moving more, even though they're not necessarily moving more. So to your point, it's a very difficult category. Where would you like to go next?
Let's go. Let's maybe knock out some of these less flashy ones right away. So I think maybe best hands is a nice.
Best hands.
Yeah, let's go to best hands.
I like that. Best hands. Oh boy, the third place finisher in best hands, the 2025 Thinkies, is Amen Thompson. Now, I just want to point out, there was someone in the voting who split all their Thompson twin votes, and I somewhat allowed it. I just want to say that, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. That person maybe just thought, like, the Thompson twins are so indistinguishable, I'm always going to stick them together next to each other. And I guess that's okay. But it was, I was not happy splitting votes. I was not happy giving Thompson twins half credits. Let's put it that way.
What a really sneaky move. What a just terrible, like an awful undermining of the democratic process that we are doing right now.
Correct. Yeah.
Whichever voter in this process that just kind of put them out there together. That's disgusting. It
was disgusting. A cop out is what it was.
Disappointed in that podcast host for doing.
Where were we? The third place finisher for best hands in 2025 was Amen Thompson. Second place. Look at this. Look what's happening right now. This is wild. Second place from the Los Angeles Clippers, Cody's own Chris Dunn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And now the winner of the 2025 Thinkies Award for best hands goes to Dyson Daniels.
Okay.
From the Atlanta Hawks. I can see that.
Let me ask you, when you are paying attention to how good somebody's hands are defensively, like when it stands out to you, what are sorts of the things that you look for? Because I think the most famous one is you get some of these small guys going down low and doing the Kyle Lowry, right? Like somebody going up and they're just there to like swat it down, right? The Paul Millsap at the power forward is very good at this kind of thing. Jokic is down there kind of getting his hands in the way there. But also there's like, do you count being able to tip passes in the passing lane? Do you count stripping people at the point of attack? Like, how do you kind of rank those sorts of skills? And is there anything else in terms of hands that I'm missing when it comes to watching these guys?
I absolutely think about those things. I think about how accurate you are with your hands, how quick they are, how active they are. And so that means when you're holding the ball and the ball's in front of you, someone swipes at the ball, and do they get it? How strong is the hand, or are the hands? Okay, usually it's one hand when you hit the ball. So, Gary Payton II, who also got votes here. I know a person I've had in this category in the past, Draymond Green. I feel like as a person a person from the 1900s myself, getting up there in age, I look at Draymond Green's hands this year, and he has more misses swatting at the ball, leading to more fouls and things like that. So I account for that. Where in the past, I'm like, oh my God, your hands are like sentinels. They're heat seeking. And so, yes, when you're holding the ball, I think Atari Eason hitting the ball as it's coming up on your shot and just being able to accurately target that way. And then the last thing for me, Cody, would be if I'm defending a player trying to make like an entry pass and I'm tracking it with my hands, how good are my hands at just getting in there like a hockey goalie? Do I get my fingertip on it? Am I a little late? So there's a quickness, accuracy, activity thing that for me is very concrete about this category. And I mean, of course, we made up the category, so it makes sense that it's very concrete. But that's what I think about. Nikola Jokic just finished outside the top three, just lost out on that bronze medal. Other big names here with some big votes: Alex Caruso, Asar Thompson, Lou Dort, the aforementioned Gary Payton II, Andrew Nembhard. And I mean, Tari Eason barely got. He just sneaking in there with a few credits at the end. I thought we'd get more Tari Eason. And another name that maybe was I the only person that No, a couple people gave him love. He was on multiple ballots. And I think this is awesome. James Harden, whose hands have been phenomenal this season. And of course, earlier in the year, we had the one play where he I think got 4 deflections on one play. I can't remember who was against, but
yeah. We talked about it because it's probably the best defensive sequence I've ever seen from James Harden, right? Like you watch it, like who's this? Is this the same guy that I've been watching for all these years? Chris Dunn being number 1 for me. It's almost cheating because you have a couple of skills overlapping here because I think his hands combines with his motor to just make it where I think when you have strong hands, it's one of those where like if you have the ball or somebody's trying to pass the ball in your direction, you have to think twice about it, right? And Dunn is so relentless. It's just kind of like poking away at all the time. They're dribbling. You kind of have to turn your back to him. Or if you like throw it into somebody at the nail, right? Or at the elbow or something like that, and they're kind of doing like a Carmelo Anthony type of offense. Like you have to be aware. You always kind of have to keep your eye behind you because Chris Dunn is waiting for that moment for you to look away to come over and swipe that. Or it's like if you're going to try and pass and he's sitting at the nail, maybe he's going to jump. He's going to wait for that last second and jump and grab it. So when you combine the motor with his incredible hands, I think that's what makes him such a devastating defender. I mean, I think maybe he'll come up in at least another category. I hope he does based on what I did for my ballot.
Another category.
I would like to think so. But I think another player that really stands out when I think about hands, historically at least, Kawhi Leonard, right? I don't think Kawhi didn't stand out to me in terms of like Chris Dunn in terms of motor, but Kawhi's one of those guys that if he's guarding you, you have to really make sure that you're safeguarding the ball at all time because his hands are massive and they're really strong and he's going to Ben McLemore you once in a while, just strip you a couple possessions in a row. So I think that's the sort of thing. Are you afraid to have the basketball in the vicinity of this player? Is sort of the main thing that I'm thinking about with hands.
I think it's time to get a little bit more serious. The next few categories to me, if those are the teeny medals we just handed out, these are the regular sized medals before we get to the giant statue in the last category or two. So the next category is best point of attack defender. And at this point, we start to have to like get the definitions going for people so they can actually understand what we mean by best point of attack defender. In this case, best point of attack defender is who disrupts offensive initiation the most. And this can be in isolation or pick and roll. Obviously, in today's game, that is going to be perimeter oriented in most situations. So best point of attack defender. Any thoughts before I read the results?
I think this might be the sort of defense that was over-indexed on for the majority of basketball history, right? Like people would point to these kinds of possessions and be like, look at how this dude pulled up his shorts and just shut him down.
That's real defense.
Yeah. Let's vote this 2010 Kobe Bryant to the all defensive team because look at how he's able to lock up so-and-so for this one. It's just incredible work. Look at him just being a dog out there. Like this is the dog defense, right? So I think that it's almost flashy in the sense that we hold it on such a pedestal in like what basketball is. And obviously, like I don't think you or I think it's quite that valuable. It's also not valuable. Like being a good point of attack defender really disrupts a lot of stuff, especially if you're a team that generates their offense from maybe just like a singular player or two. So I guess that's what I want to say about point of attack.
I think that's such an interesting point because, certainly if you talk to coaches and the coaches listening, they will always emphasize like how valuable it is to have point of attack defenders. And to some degree, you have this argument today about how point of attack defenders and these perimeter defenders that you're talking about have become underappreciated and underrated because they rarely ever win defensive player of the year. And last season, we switched to this silly thing now where we don't have positions on the all defensive team. So it's just like the top 5 centers and forwards in the league on the first team all defense, right? Didn't Alex Caruso talk about that recently where he's like, I was the top vote getting guard by a mile, but I didn't even finish first team because of this bias. But the thing is, when you look at impact historically, we all know how important the paint is and guarding multiple players and guarding high value shots. And so today, to me, there is this interesting middle ground or this duality where it's like, on one hand, the platonic ideal of playing defense in a gym one-on-one is embodied by these players, and therefore it's been overrated in the past. But of course, when you look at data, it's less valuable. But the middle ground is like, yeah, look at the great defenses today. Look at what it takes in today's game to be able to defend the perimeter and contain these players and slow them down. Look at Oklahoma City, look at Houston, look at Orlando, look at all these great defenses and how much it can help to have one or two, or if you're the Thunder, 7 great perimeter, point of attack defenders. So yeah, it's an interesting category to me.
And a key part that actually makes it super valuable is if you have a team of strong point of attack defenders, there's nobody that you can mismatch hunt. Like, the point of mismatch hunting is getting the weak point of attack defender on a guy and being able to exploit them. Like, even and another thing that I think is more, I don't necessarily want to say it's more important now, but it feels like it's standing out a lot more. But there's a component of being strong that's necessary for being a very good point of attack defender. I think, like, Derek White's a very good defensive player, but when the Lakers play the Celtics, like, LeBron wants the Derek White matchup, not because Derek White's a bad defender, but because he just doesn't have the strength when LeBron's trying back. No one has the strength to stop LeBron, but there's the Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum component that's like, oh, I'm going to get a smaller guy that might actually be solid at moving his feet, staying in front of the dude, but I can just back him down like I'm Charles Barkley in 1993 and get to the offense that I want. So I think that's an underrated component, is also just being like quick, but also very strong and sturdy.
I actually thought about strength for a lot of categories. And I thought, boy, if Cody was in charge, if Cody had solo ownership of the rules committee, we would have strongest defender. That would probably be a category. Biggest leg press. Point of attack defender. Yep. 2025 Thinkies. Third place. I can't believe this is happening. What is going on? This is really wild. Third place. Chris Dunn from the Los Angeles Clippers.
My guy.
Amen Thompson. Boy, this is very, very close. We almost had a tie. For the winner this year. They are so close with 48% of the vote share. Amen Thompson is second. And the 2025 Thinky for best point of attack defender, I feel like we should all say this one together, is Lou Dort from the Oklahoma City Thunder. 52% of the vote share. A couple other guys really close here. Alex Caruso, Asar Thompson, Tumani Kamara, Jalen Suggs. I mean, this is a stacked category to me.
Lou Dort epitomizes the strength thing that I was just talking about. I mean, that guy is a tank. He's like Kyle Lowry, for instance. You talk about somebody like that and his strength in the low center of gravity. He's a solid multiple inches shorter than Lou Dort, right? Like, Lou Dort is sturdy. He's tall enough for the guard position that he can kind of float around, defend a lot of different positions. He's extremely quick. He's good at getting his body around picks. I think that's a big part, is being able to pick dodge a little bit. I don't think he's the best pick dodger in the NBA. I think that used to be one of our categories, but I don't think he's the best. But when you factor in all of the other things, like, you just can't pick on him. Like, LeBron James isn't really going to get much space trying to back down Lou Dort, just in the same sense that, like, Steph Curry isn't going to get a lot of space if he's just trying to ISO against Lou Dort every possession. So in a team that's just filled with all of these incredible defensive players, Lou Dort, I think it makes a lot of sense for him being the preeminent guy on the Thunder, for being like, all right, this is the guy we're going to sick on whomever on whatever possession.
I voted for Dort personally. I also thought Tumani Kamara would have been a little bit higher. Your points, I think multiple times you alluded to being picked on. And this idea that when you are a perimeter defender, often in today's game, a lot of your value is almost not being negative. And then the less negative you are, the better. And then when you're actually positive, like, whoa, look at the difference. Now we have a guy that we can build game plans around in the playoffs. We can sick this guy on Trae Young and really mess up his game plan. And so not only you're not hunting us or picking on us, we're picking on you. We're dictating toward you. And to me, Dort, because of that, like 6'9", 6'10" wingspan, and because of how strong he is physically, that allows him to match up with different types of attackers in this game, right? The players that create point of attack mismatches, whether it's off a screen or whether it's someone who wants to switch hunt and then isolate, it allows him to do that. And I think that's the other thing with Tumani Kamara. He's big, but he takes incredible angles. So you're like, whatever type of player you are, from Trae Young up to LeBron James or Luka Doncic as a point of attack initiator on your team, these guys have you covered. And to me, that's what essentially makes them the best at that in the league.
I'm thinking about Thompson. I wonder, I want to see what you think about this. Like Dort, the full package sort of thing, like the strength, the footwork, stuff like that. Thompson strikes me as the guy that maybe has the quickest feet. in terms of
Which Thompson? Somebody put the Thompsons as exactly the same on their ballot. So I just need to clarify.
Yeah, I don't know how someone would do that and live with
So which
themselves.
Thompson? Are we just talking about both of the Thompsons at the same
Let's
time?
talk Amon Thompson right now.
Amen. You're okay. Yeah. So far we've had motor, we've had hands, we've had point of attack. Yeah. And Amen has beaten Asar in each of these three categories. I'm not saying that's wrong, but also are we indexing a little too much on the fact that, Asar had the issue with the blood clot and then he came back and he's worked his way back into the mix this year and he's got lost in the shuffle, and this year Amen's been the flashy object. I'm a little concerned. I just want to put a little historical footnote for anyone listening in the future. I'm a little concerned that that's happened.
I feel bad. I genuinely feel bad for Asar Thompson. Like I don't want anyone to have any animosity towards their family.
Why do you feel like because because he's behind Amen in all these?
Yeah. And I feel like if I'm Asar, I'm like, people just aren't watching me. Like, my brother has the much better defensive ecosystem he's in. Like, look at the Rockets. They're just so tough. They got the coach that's perfect for this kind of thing. I don't quite have that ecosystem. I'm covering for a little bit more stuff, even though the Pistons have been good defensively, and obviously he's a big part of it. I just wonder how this would all turn out. Not calling out anyone, right? Especially the person that just put them together on their ballots. But I just wonder how things would be different if I don't know, if there is just more attention on the Pistons and Asar individually here.
Well, give it time. Give it time. The future is I was going to say the future is still to come, but who knows?
Wait, can I say one more thing about this?
Mm-hmm.
I want to say a player, and I said something like this last year, but I think there's a player who, if you just take the best possible possessions that he has at the point of attack, if you just isolated those, he might be in the top 3.
This player must be Anthony Edwards.
It's Anthony Edwards.
Okay, yeah. It's funny because I was actually going to say he didn't get any votes this year. I wrote him down for the same reason when I was considering candidates for this category. And I actually think, similar to what you just said, I was wondering, are Timberwolves underrated this year because of how good they were last year and how it feels like there's a letdown and they had the really slow start in the trade and things like that. We haven't seen any Timberwolves, and in the past we've seen Timberwolves dominate some of these categories. I think I forgot to mention, I want to make sure I got this, Andrew Nembhard, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Suggs also got a ton of votes. So there were 9 players that had a ton of votes. They were on multiple ballots. They got a ton of vote shares. This was a really stacked category, which it always hasn't been in the past.
I wonder if Suggs hadn't been injured and the Magic didn't have their tremendous downfall, if he'd be higher. Because I think at the beginning of the season, I maybe thought Suggs was the best point of attack defender. And I wonder if it's just that I haven't seen him play for a while.
Well, it's not just that for me. It's that how do you deal when you hand out awards with the ideas of guys not just playing less? Some people say, okay, 45 games, 55, that's fine. We're not going to worry about that. 10 games, maybe I'm not going to leave Matisse Thybulle off my ballot this year. But not just that, but when you come back and play and you're injured, and now 20 or 30 or 40% of your season is he's been hobbling around and the team's different and he's got to play a totally different role. So there's a lot going on there with Suggs where, if we had done this as a straw poll in November, I could see him possibly, definitely finishing top 3 and possibly winning, because when he's on, he's a maniac. Where did he finish in motor, by the way?
Suggs?
Yeah, he was 5th in motor. Okay.
I don't know why I looked at my screen. I don't have it in front of me. I'm looking over here let me check the ballots and see where I have no idea.
Okay. I always ask you every year if you want to see the ballots as we go through, and you say, no, I want to hear it with the rest of the audience.
I think in the past, when I was a scaredy pants, I was like, Ben, show me the ballots first so I can be prepared. Not just give it to me live.
Is that how you used to talk?
I think so.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Man, you know Matisse Thybulle?
It was sort of yes, you were taking helium before the episodes. Yeah. When do you guys see Matisse?
By the way, he's coming up again. It's happening. I'm going to bring him up again, just for the record.
I think this is a slight, just like point of attack defender. I think this is a full size medal award. This is also another kind of serious award. Best perimeter helper. Best perimeter helper. This is the best, and I love this category because it's not something that's talked about, and it's not always something that you notice, but you really have to look. And after a while, when you really start looking, you kind of can't unsee it. It's the kind of thing where you think about scouting reports and why so much of basketball today, Cody, is the thing that didn't happen that you didn't notice didn't happen, right? hey, I see it after the game all the time. Like what were they doing? That guy really struggled with his shot and he was settling for a lot of threes and they just didn't show up today. And then you like go back and watch the film and it's like, oh no, that was a game plan that totally deterred the offense or that player from driving into the paint. They clogged, they brought an extra player over. They were ignoring this other guy. And so you actually have to look at the thing that didn't happen, which is the normal drive or the normal pick and roll. And so much of this category about best perimeter helper is based on that. Who is the best at getting in passing lanes, zoning up the weak side, and digging down and recovering from the nail and foul line area in help position toward the ball, toward the basket. That's the category.
I love that. I think this might be. I wonder if it's actually flashier than the next one, because I think you can make some pretty spectacular plays from this defensive position. So
you can, but I also feel like every year since we've introduced this is the category that befuddles people the most. They're thinking, how do I interpret this? What players come to mind? Because it feels like a blind spot in the way defense is covered, and defense is already a thing that has a blind spot to some degree because we're so highlight oriented. If you go to the YouTube channel on the NBA, they're like, let's watch the 12-minute version of this game, and it's every made shot ever. So no wonder why people think there's no defense played in the league. They just watched the 10-minute version, and there were no defensive plays made in the entire game.
They should program that. They should show every missed shot from every game, every missed shot and turnover. Like that's the only 12-minute segment that they should show. I wonder how that would change the discourse. That'd be wonderful. That'd be great.
This is why you're in charge of the celebratory fun committee, right?
As I need this, Ben. I need this. Who are the perimeter helpers? I don't even know what we're talking about now.
Perimeter helpers. My gosh, there were a lot of players that got votes. We had 18 different players getting votes, and there's some stragglers, but there were 12 players that got a decent chunk of votes, and eyeing it, almost all of them on multiple ballots and things like that. So, okay, third place. Boy, this is so close. Third place, best perimeter helper in 2025 goes to Draymond Green. I mean, Draymond Green is one of those players you could put anywhere in any category at any point in time, and I'm just like, yeah, I can't really argue. But that's one of the greatest defensive players of all time. I don't really quite think he's at the same level he was at a couple years ago when he was still just authoring, things that should be put in the basketball Louvre, right? Like just send it right to the Hall of Fame. That 2022 title run was absolutely spectacular the entire year when he played. This year, it's a little bit more inconsistent. He didn't quite have that, obviously, the last month or two. He's made a big push at the end of the year. So Draymond Green is third, yes.
I'm going to jump in on Draymond for a second, because especially when you get to these couple of categories, I think perimeter helpers, when I really get into these kinds of heuristics that I use, Ben, there's two things I look at. Number one, there's the rewind defenders, right? Which defenders do I watch all the time? And I'm constantly rewinding to be like, wait a second, how did this player do this? Draymond, to me, is the preeminent rewind defender in the league. Like the stuff that he just does, where I just keep rewatching back. I'm like, oh wait, how did you know to go here? How did you know to step over? How did you end up at the rim when this drive was happening? Like, to me, he's still the best when it comes to that sort of thing. But then the other heuristic I use, that I think you need to have both of those. Like, you have to have both of those for me to really be like, oh my goodness, this is number one. I call them cackle defenders. Like, which defenders make me cackle the most? So like, I'm sitting on my couch, I'm like, look at that play, right? I don't think Draymond has as many of those just ridiculous, how did you possibly make that kind of play sort of thing right now? Like I said, I think he's still the best rewind guy, but in terms of the cackle defenders, I think there's a couple of other guys where you just laugh more when you watch them. There's no other way to define it.
Second place in the 2025 Thinky for best perimeter defender goes to Dyson Daniels. Interesting. Yes.
Okay.
And the winner, it's about to get real in here right now. The winner of the 2025 Thinky for best perimeter helper. I'm about to run out of the room. I'm so excited. It's inappropriate. I have to remain objective. Jalen Williams from the Oklahoma City Thunder is the winner of this category. And a fine choice, if I may say so.
I like it when my number one on the ballot is the winner. It makes me feel vindicated.
Yes. It does feel good when that happens.
I feel vindicated. Like, yes, these other voters feel the same way. J-Dub, there's something about his combination of length and strength and I don't want to say versatility because that's going to be the next round, but he just makes so many plays all over the place. Like you're driving in, and he's got such powerful hands swiping at you when you drive in. Like he's like a windmill out there, not a windmill dunk, but he's like a windmill with those arms swinging around. But then all of a sudden, like a big man gets a pocket pass, and all of a sudden he's down there blocking them at the rim, like meeting them at the apex, right? And then all of a sudden you're trying to pass across court, and he's also there stealing it. Okay, so he's just making all of these plays while still not, I feel like, gambling in a sense that really hurts the Thunder defense. So I feel like he's got the whole package without a lot of the minuses that sometimes come with these guys that rack up those kinds of plays.
Well, I love the reads. I love the IQ. I love processing the coverage we're in and understanding what's happening and being able to either get in passing lanes that way or, like you said, help out and disrupt ball handlers and help on ball handlers that way. Chris Dunn did get a good number of votes here. I'm trying to get to some other names we haven't seen because I see Chris Dunn, I see Tumani Kamara, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, he's great in passing lanes, obviously. Tari Eason got a bunch of votes here. And wait, what a category this is. It finally happened. 4th place finisher, Asar Thompson.
Ooh.
1% more vote share than his brother, Amen Thompson. Take that.
Can we have a conversation for a second?
About what? I think this whole podcast has it not been a conversation?
Yeah, but we need to have a conversation. Like we need to sit down. Like,
is it about White Lotus?
No, like like mom and dad are like kids. We got to sit on the couch.
What's happening?
We got to have this conversation because you and I haven't been like exploding with excitement about a particular player that I think has been getting a lot of shine throughout the season. So can we for a second just pause and talk about Dyson Daniels?
Why? Why are we doing this? Why do you want to do this?
I think it's an important conversation to have. I think it's an important. That makes it sound like what we're doing is like, I don't know, handing out like the laws from Mount Sinai. Like we're
what
talking
laws?
basketball.
Yeah. What?
So Dyson Daniels, to me, as a defensive player, I think his standout skill is his hands. Right. I think if there's one thing to highlight, he's great at jumping those passive lanes. He's great at stripping players, blah, blah, blah. He's a good defender. But I feel like in terms of making the same kinds of reads that these other guys do, I don't know. It makes for bad radio without me like looking at the film in front right now. But I just don't see a lot of those kinds of rewind things where I'm like, wow, you completely blew up this offensive set just from your rotations or making the same kinds of ridiculous plays at the rim that like J-Dub would have. So I think Dyson Daniels, because of the steal numbers, which again, I think is mostly related to his hands, is a good defensive player. But I feel like in the context of everything we're talking about, he's maybe just on the outside of a lot of these categories. And even though he finished pretty high here, he didn't finish that high for me in this category.
I feel like that was just a way of you saying that you disapprove of where he finished.
I don't disapprove. I respect what my voters also did, but I don't quite feel the excitement for Dyson Daniels.
I hear that. Shall we go? I mean, it's getting real serious now. Shall we go to the best, the most versatile defense? You're shaking your head.
No,
I'm being shot down. What's happening?
There's one more. There's one more player we got to talk about.
What do you mean? There's one more player we have to talk about?
I just want to say.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes, we do have to give like a shout out to the fact that the Knicks defense is a mess, and we somehow have not mentioned OG Anunoby, who's done a great job.
He has. He
could have popped in so many of these categories so far. I think that's a good call on your part.
He's a great one. But I think if there was going to be a second person, I was going to say, I think Matisse Thybulle is still.
What are you doing right now?
He's a pretty incredible perimeter helper. And I just don't. I think I would be doing a disservice to the world if I didn't bring up the fact that he can still Thybulle at his Thybulliest. But sometimes I feel like sometimes I watch the Blazers and I think to myself, like, as the world move past what Matisse Thybulle brings on defense, do you need like a little less of the chaotic energy? I think in the video, the breakdown you had, which is still maybe the most popular video on the Thinking Basketball YouTube channel.
That's because I chase clicks.
Just like Thybulle chases steals. But I think it works best when he has like a drop defender like Joel Embiid behind him. But in terms of disrupting stuff, I don't know if there's anyone that's just going to go for it more than him. And I just had to give him a vote because of that.
Not to break the fourth wall too much, but wait till you see who our next video is on.
Who's it on?
I can't tell you. I'll just tell you average is 12 minutes a game. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh my God. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's for the clicks though. Trust me.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only thing that we're here for. Right.
That's why we do this every year.
Like before every pod, you're like, Cody, just say the most brash thing you can to make sure we get noticed.
Yeah. What category are we on? We've been completely derailed, and we only have 5 minutes left.
Versatile defender.
I love this. I love this. This is a serious category, okay? Because most versatile defender, the way we define it is, this is important. I think in the past people have thought like, you can guard 1 through 5. That's part of it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But this is really important in today's NBA. Who can succeed in the widest variety of coverages and guard multiple positions successfully? Which means you also have to consider things like defensive IQ, understanding the assignment, understanding the player in front of you, understanding your team defensive structure, and communication. Because if you're changing stuff on the fly, if you're guarding different people, there are situations there where you need to be able to communicate. And that's part of switching. That's part of being versatile. That's part of playing in a variety of schemes. Hey, we changed the scheme in the timeout, or something from the sideline comes in. You got to make sure you tell the player next to you, we're in this new coverage. I'm here, you're there. This is how we're playing it. And so to me, that is often the lost component when we talk about defensive versatility. I think it's almost a heavyweight category. The medals are getting bigger and bigger as we go through this. Do you have any thoughts on that, or would you like to hear the results?
I do. I actually think there's an interesting, I didn't know where to land on this push and pull here. Do you value like bigger players that are able to play in a lot more different kinds of defensive schemes, or however you described it? Or do you appreciate like guards and smaller players that aren't going to be as attacked as much and can handle a lot more of these different schemes?
I don't know if you're going to like this answer, but I'm height agnostic, meaning
I love the answer.
Well, if you're 6'2" and you have a 7.5-foot wingspan and you average 5 blocks a game, I just don't care if you're 6'2". What I care about here is your effectiveness across the board. So it's going to be much harder for smaller players to be really good, but some smaller players will encroach on that. I think a couple years ago, Marcus Smart, I can't remember, we talked about Marcus Smart's ability to guard bigs. Lou Dort has a little bit of that. By the way, I don't know where anyone finished before we get to the category. That's the way I do it as well. I have no idea. I wait until right before the show, we tabulate, I open it up, I read it live with everybody else. I have no idea. So does that answer your question about height? I think it organically skews toward players that are stronger, toward players that are longer, that can be, play angles. Like you think about Kevin Garnett, right? Kevin Garnett, in some sense, could guard 6 positions. What can you do? All right, here we go.
Is the official the 6th one just getting in his face the whole time? Is that what you're talking about?
It's anything you can throw on the court. Here we go. Lot of players receiving votes here, and then we kind of skew toward a bunch at the top. I will say honorable mention to someone who looks like he got the 6th most amount of vote share, Victor Wembanyama. I kind of forgot him in this category, and I kicked when I saw this just a second ago, I kicked myself, and I said, yeah, that's a good answer. I should have had Wemby higher. If I had Wemby higher, that moves him up the ballot. I wonder how many other people just didn't index on the creativity it takes to put Wemby here and say, like, yeah, actually, you could run a ton of different stuff with Wemby. You don't have to have him guarding point guards, but if he guards 4s and 5s and some 3s and then all the different coverages, I try to personally balance all the different things you can do in coverage, which is so important in basketball, even in the regular season now. It's crazy how complex some of the games are, where it's like teams will have multiple zones that they have baked in as their base coverages. And then they'll also be like, yeah, we know we got to try tonight against Luka. We're going to try 7 different pick and roll coverages and see if any of them work. It's insane to me. The winner of this well, I shouldn't go there yet. 3rd place. This is a stacked category. 3rd place in most versatile defender 2025 goes to Evan Mobley of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Is that the first time we've heard his name today?
That is the first time we've heard his name.
Wow, and he might win Defensive Player of the Year.
I know. Well, that's because I think, like you talked about, with the size of the trophies that we're handing out, like if you score highly on these last 2 categories, I think that vaults your chances up quite a bit.
Very
like no one remembers the sound design and the editing wins, but if you rake in, like, if you Nora it, you know what I'm saying, and like win best picture and then best director, like that's what people remember, Ben.
Did Honora win best editing and
make it up?
sound?
I thought it did. I think it won all of those things.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it cleaned up pretty well.
Evan Mobley, third in this category, second in this category. A familiar name. Now I'm starting to wonder if how much I could influence these ballots just by making videos on certain players every year. Tumani Kamara finishes second. He was on almost every ballot. Jalen Williams was also almost on every ballot, but finished like fifth. He did not get the same sort of first place vote share, if you will. And the winner in a landslide. This is in fact just our third majority winner, but this is almost all of the vote share. And I sign off on this. Draymond Green, most versatile defender.
See, this is interesting because you vindicated my number one on the ballot here, but then 2 and 3, like you just said, not even on my ballot, not even on the top 6, right? But I think what makes this particular category so very difficult, if you had asked me like 3 days from now, you're like, hey, Evan Mobley, do you think he's the top 3 most versatile defender? And I sat down and I thought, like, really thought about it. I'd probably say, yeah, like he probably is. Like his ability to just rim protect at the highest level. He can play next to another center who's also just like a clear drop rim protecting type of guy. He can switch out and cover like for some weaker defensive players. Like he is like you talked about. I think there was so much rhetoric about him being the next Kevin Garnett that when he wasn't as good as like the best defensive player ever, we were like,
was there
live up to it.
Was there a lot of rhetoric around that?
I thought there was. I thought I heard a lot of buzz. It's like, I think his peak is Kevin Garnett. And that's just too high of an order. But now that when you're like realistic and you watch him play, you're like, man, what can't Evan Mobley do on defense? So, I didn't have him on my ballot, and I sign off on him being third, Ben.
I feel like the attempts to find unicorns since Kevin Garnett have only illustrated to generations who are now removed from the narratives around Kevin Garnett, like how insane Kevin Garnett was as a player, where people are just like Jaren Jackson Jr., Evan Mobley. I'm sure I'm forgetting a ton that didn't pan out, right? They see these guys and they think like, oh, what's good? He could be an elite defender and he could be a passer and he could set screens and could he also be a 26 point per game scorer? And it's just like, no, checking all of those. Could he be one of the best mid-range shooters of all time? Like, no, checking all of those boxes is just silly. And that's probably why Kevin Garnett has like the greatest on-off footprint in NBA history. Yeah. Anyway, how did we get, this is not a Kevin Garnett show. Did we read, I read these top 3, right?
Yeah. And then Kamara and Draymond. I don't think we need to talk about Draymond anymore. Like we've talked about him enough.
Well, the thing I'll say that, and I endorse this, him winning here is in the sense that we think about it from the switching standpoint, but think about all the coverages that you can play and think about how well he communicates in those situations and in those coverages. So to me, he's a great pick. Amen Thompson, Jalen Williams, J-Dub. We already mentioned Wemby. Now, here's a player who popped up on a couple ballots. Jason Tatum popped up on a couple ballots. I am so excited to see this other player pop up on a couple ballots. Al Horford, who is just ageless, right? But also, when you look at some of the games Al Horford has, he can like switch and guard perimeter players really well. What he does so well in this category that I think needs to be emphasized is he is extraordinary, like superhuman at understanding individual player tendencies and taking them away. And so we say things years ago of like, he's the Embiid stopper, but he's actually a lot of player stoppers because he's so good at realizing what a guy likes to do, taking it away, giving him an angle, timing up his shot, that some of the timing on his block shots is absolutely incredible. And I think it's because he understands the differences in the players that he's guarding, in addition to the fact that he's playing on a team where when Kristaps Porzingis is on the court, who knows he's going to come up in the last category. They have these beautiful rim protection numbers. The theory of funneling the ball to the middle with Porzingis is great. And yet there are opponents and there are times when Horford is out there, even at 37, 38 years old, where you're like, oh, he gives them a totally different gear because you can play every pick and roll coverage with Al Horford. You can play at the level, you can play drop, you can play switch, you can hedge and recover. It's just a different ball game when Al Horford is out there. And so even at his advanced age, I just wanted to shout that out because I think he's had a great year. If we ever get to doing a video on him, certainly the details and the nuances of some of this stuff will pop, I think, because Just really, really incredible at the things he does.
Let's keep this love fest up for a second longer with Al Horford. Dude's almost 39 years old, right? And no one is making an argument that Al Horford should be near the top in terms of motor, right? It's not like he's bouncing around all over the place and he's just like got this frenetic energy. But the one thing that stands out, and I think it stands out on the offensive end too, is if there's a transition attack, he is there. Like, he is finishing transition plays. He's getting out. He's beating so many guys down the court. The guy, for being 39 years old, and I know I'm the weight room guy, we need to give this guy, who's not Steph Curry, right, his flowers for just how incredibly in shape he is cardiovascular wise. Like, at that age, at that size, being able to handle all these switches, all these schemes. The Lakers game gets brought up a lot in terms of people trying to, like, Luka and LeBron trying to ISO against him. He's just like, no, like that. I'm not going to let that happen. But he's also just beating people down the court. That's just takes so much dedication to keep your body at that level this long into an NBA career. And I don't think that we appreciate that level of physical, like we talk about physicality, right? We don't appreciate that level of physicality enough. And I think that's part of what also makes him such an elite defensive player still at this age.
To be fair, LeBron is older than him, so he does have an advantage there. Yeah. Let's see. Bam Adebayo also popped up here. I think we've covered most. OG Anunoby, I think we've covered most of the names that got any kind of decent vote share.
Can I say something about the Thinkies? And I feel like there's a player that gets a little short shrift here. Somebody that I wish could get more flowers, but he's just not high enough, and that's Jason Tatum. I feel like we almost in these conversations undersell just how ridiculously good of a defensive player he is, yet he just doesn't finish in like the top 3 of these categories. And it makes me sad. Like, I don't know what categories I have to fit to make Jason Tatum like get more awards here, but I just think, like, through the Celtics' success through these last few years, his versatility on defense is truly one of the things that have made them special. The versatility on offense and defense, I should say. But I just want to shout out and just say, Jason Tatum, I've noticed you, and I appreciate the strength you've put on to allow yourself to basically guard, like, oh, I'm just going to go guard Jarrett Allen this game, right? Where, you know, Drew Holiday's going to go guard Evan Mobley, and then we can do whatever we want defensively, right? So just shouting out Jason Tatum here.
It's a great call. He's always getting these like trickling votes near the bottom of the ballot. And I think this is to some degree the push to have like 3 all defensive teams, which on one hand, I'm 100% for. On the other hand, I feel like evaluating defense fairly is so hard that it's just making the test even harder. The test is, people are already struggling to pass the test. And then they're like, you know what we should do? We should add another chapter in the book. So like Tatum is a perfect example of that, where he's almost never a player that when you stack it up, you go, it has to be all first team defense, has a defensive player of the year candidate. But man, is he a great defender. And it's such a big part of his value as a player. And, you know, historically, this is why I'm always interested in the also receiving votes category, because if you have a nice, healthy share every year of like, yeah, if we had a third team, you would be on the third team like 8 times, but you only made 1 second team all defense, you're a pretty good defender. And I think Jason Tatum falls into that category.
Yeah.
Best paint protector, the best picture, the biggest medal, the giant trophy. It's worth probably like 2 awards. It's the juiciest of juicy defensive awards. This goes to the way we define it is the players who are the best at altering or deterring shots near the goal. This includes their help positioning near the goal. It's things like taking charges, blocking shots, deterring passes, deterring drives, and backline communication. Because in today's NBA, with all that space, Cody, when you are the low man, you need to be talking. You need to tell people what's going on. And we do our best to try to read lips all year, see what mouths are moving, turn up hot mics, ask coaches everything we can. And that's it. That's the category. Simple, right?
I got to ask.
Even before we go, you're going to ask?
Was it unanimous?
It was unanimous.
Yeah.
The 2025 Thinky for best paint protector goes to Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
A unanimous 100% vote share. Rudy Gobert finishes second, and Anthony Davis finishes third, just ahead of Evan Mobley. They were almost exactly tied. Draymond Green just behind that. And then we have a couple, there's like 2 extra guys who are like, if you're making a list and you're like, who else could be in that category? Who else could threaten for the top 3? It is our friend Draymond Green, and sorry, I already said Draymond Green, didn't I? It is our friend Jaren Jackson Jr. and Chet Holmgren. And man, to me, those were the guys. Also have to give a shout out. Ivica Zubac got on a couple ballots. Jonathan Isaac, although he's had a weird year to me, he got on a couple ballots. And then we just have someone acknowledged. He has some vote share from a high vote. And when I saw it, I said, this person should win the Thinkies. This voter should win the Thinkies because this is exactly correct. And that is Donovan Clingan, the rookie in Portland. On one hand, I give a little bit of a rookie tax.
Yep.
On the other hand, man, Cody, have you seen his rim protection? The numbers are insane. He changes the game. It's insane. He's still playing more bench units, but when he starts against certain teams, he's had great runs. Very interesting to see going forward if he emerges as a truly elite rim protector, because so far he's been fantastic in the minutes that he's played.
I wrote down about 12 names, and Clingan was definitely a guy that I initially wrote down. But in terms of like those top 3 or 4, especially dudes, like I just didn't see him cracking that. Like you said, I think the rookie tax is a fair part, especially with defense. Like this is a multi-year almost sampling when I think about. And Gobert for me, I think Gobert is obviously just a tremendous defensive player still. It felt a little less impactful last year. Like last year, I thought, actually, I don't remember if he was the best paint protector for us, but he was either 1 or 2. And it just felt like he was such a stalwart defensively. And it feels like it's tapered off a little bit, which is interesting because I thought that Gobert looked a little bit worse 2 years ago as well, when I think he was kind of had a little bit more of an injury-riddled season. So Gobert it's like the Trae Young with the All-Star thing. Like Gobert seems to be on like the every other like all-time defensive thing. So maybe next year Gobert is just going to be back to being like the best rim protector in the league. But at least in my mind, like what I saw from Evan Mobley in his ability to be able to step out and prevent players from getting into the paint in the first place and deterring people from actually getting into the area to score some baskets. I thought Evan Mobley really, especially with his added strength from previous years, really blew me away with his paint presence this year.
I just want to say that I can almost always remember who I voted for first, but once we start doing this, like, 2 through 7, all these other guys that we're talking about, Gobert, Davis, Mobley, Draymond, Jaren Jackson Jr., Chet, I'm looking at that order and I'm just like, yeah, that's a good group of players. So I don't know how I voted them. That's a fantastic order. Like Chet Holmgren, I think it goes back to that strength comment we've hit on a couple times in this episode. I want him to be stronger, and I think that will take him to another level. And that level might not literally be Victor Wembanyama, but I mean, man, he's already right there. So if you flip the order around a little bit, I could see that. Evan Mobley's been great. Anthony Davis has obviously been a monster when he's healthy. It's always a stacked category. And shout out to Zubac, who is not at the same level, but I think has had a great year and got a little bit of voting love as well for that.
Is Chet Holmgren the best player in the league at the 2-hand block? Because it feels like nobody contests more shots like a volleyball player than Chet getting both hands up there to block. Like a lot of guys who see meeting at the apex with 1. Chet just, like, in my mind's eye, I'm seeing a lot more plays where he's just going up with 2. And I don't know if that means anything, but I like that from him. I like that.
He's got to be the best. I was trying to think if anyone else even does it quite a bit. Does Miles Turner do it sometimes?
Maybe.
I don't know. That's almost like Chet has that technique with the volleyball setup and the jump. Cody, we have 90 seconds left before we have to leave this podcast. Do you have anything to say? Do you have any larger picture reflections about the group today?
Are there any guys that you want to shout out that we just didn't talk about here too much? And you're like, you know what? Let's give some shine to this dude for a second.
No, I think we've covered everybody. Every good defender in the league has been mentioned in this podcast.
Every single, yep. If you were
Every
not
single
mentioned,
one.
If we didn't talk about you at all, you're actually just a bad defender.
Bad.
We probably hate you. We're biased against you for sure. Like that's all very clear.
We 100% hate you and are very biased against you. Yeah.
The people in the comments are really disappointed that we're not having Wemby talk.
Wait. Wemby hasn't played in months. He still swept the award. I thought that was pretty impressive. Last year, by the way, Wemby almost won Best Paint Protector. Rudy Gobert got it, just beating Wemby, and now Wemby has moved into this unanimous position. So the French are doing well in this. That's true. The French are doing well in this category, and we'll see what happens going
who's
forward.
Another Oh, Rudy Gobert. Duh. That was really stupid. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Draymond Green won most versatile defender last year as well, so that's a repeat for him. This is an interesting sort of post-mortem thing, Cody. Maybe I should do the outro and then we can talk about it. Just, if you want to support us, patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. That's where this year we have a ton of extra member content breaking down games throughout the month that are sort of between the best teams looking at the playoffs. And if you sign up at patreon.com/thinkingbasketball, you also get our stats that we use to research the podcast. We have a ton of old content as well. If you just want videos only, you can get that now on YouTube. YouTube has a membership, videos only, and you can join the pod. You can stream the podcast with us and ask questions from the audience as we go through. So now that business is out of the way, for those who are interested in that, Cody, last year, the best perimeter helper, the Thinky, went to Herb Jones.
Oh,
yeah.
I was big on the Herb Jones train. He had some injury issues this year, didn't he?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But before that, were you still feeling that?
I thought when I checked in a couple times, I'm like, yeah, Herb's still pretty great, but I just don't think I checked in enough with him to have a full evaluation. So it's probably unfair that I didn't check in enough, but it just didn't pop quite like it did last year.
Okay. Alex Caruso won best point of attack defender last year and got traded to the Thunder, and then finished 5th, losing to Lou Dort, his teammate, who won best point of attack defender.
I couldn't explain this one. I actually tried to go back and specifically just watch Caruso, and again, it's one of those where it didn't pop like it has in past years. So I don't have a great explanation besides that.
Did you know who won best hands last year? This is unbelievable.
Ooh,
you actually mentioned it earlier.
Was it best hands? Who would it have been? Who had the best hands last year?
Kawhi Leonard.
Hey, okay. It's
Kawhi
interesting
Leonard.
he didn't get any of the placement here.
Yeah, well, I mean, he did that thing where he came back and has been slowly ramping up and whatnot. And the winner for best motor last year was indeed Jalen Suggs. He won it pretty handily over Jose Alvarado, Alex Caruso. Caruso got votes this year for motor. Yeah.
Vanderbilt didn't finish in the top 3.
I think he was injured, right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. We have Mike De La Rosa commenting right now.
Yes, from Thinking Basketball's own Mike De La Rosa is in the audience. We're very excited about that.
This is amazing.
Yeah, that's how you know it's time to wrap up the show. Thanks as always for listening all the way through on this one. Thanks for all the support and great comments throughout the year. It's been a lot of fun. Next week, we have our playoff preview as the regular season ends in the next couple days. We're very excited for that. We will see you all then. In the meantime, of course, hope you are having a great day.